I think so. I mean, I'd have to agree with Will. Not only is this just a small token, but also really sort of kicks down the road the sort of issues of not only this sort of question mark about the many members of OPEC Plus that were already struggling to meet their quotas, but this big elephant in the room about Russia and Russian production. And I think, if anything, this was Saudi Arabia and the GCC trying to sort of keep Russia in the fold and wait and see, but also trying to move towards a slightly more constructive relationship with the United States, right? There's still a lot of issues there. The Saudis, I think, feel very vindicated in their view that there was too much sort of energy transition too quickly, and also some of the concerns about the energy sanctions. But I think here, this is really a story where, some extent, it's also a story that domestic demand is rising in the Gulf, and this is air conditioning season we're really coming into. We've had awful storms and need to really cool the air and the like. So some of this increase out of Saudi and the UAE, I think, will be consumed at home.
Rachel, you really nailed it, and herein lies the dilemma. Yes, Washington and Riyadh are tight, but arguably Moscow and Riyadh are even tighter. So just how strong is OPEC's commitment to stabilise the market in this context?
Yeah, so I think OPEC has really been doing a wait to see what impact there's going to be, how much losses there are. We saw in April and even into May that Russian production went down. Some of that was domestic consumption falling through the floor, but really we are seeing a dynamic where there are not a lot of there are not a lot of countries that can that can produce. And, tomorrow, later today, we should see the details of this EU sort of oil ban phase out, and real questions about secondary sanctions. In DC, there still has not been a consensus about how much to crowd in countries like China and India that have been consuming more Russian oil. Ultimately, I don't think the logistics are there to completely redistribute. And I think there's some political questions around giving effectively a sort of cheaper fuel to China, India, and emerging markets at this time. And so I think the kind of hole that we're seeing here, Russia, for example, is not going to be able to be increasing production. Also, the sanctions and export controls have really led to declines in imports. And eventually that's going to hit energy production capacity, not just in these areas in the Arctic that are very high, high technology intensive, but even current production.